All right, how's it going? This is Anthony, Blessing Christian Lifestyle, and today we're gonna go over the Book of Daniel, chapter 1 through 2. All right, so the Book of Daniel is actually one of those books in the Bible that is, I would say, one of the more complicated books to go over. It's, for one, it's pretty long, and there's just a lot. All right, so there's a lot. So the first thing is find out who is Daniel, where does he come from, his friends. All right. Um, the one of the most important things about Daniel is that they talk about him in the cage with the lions. That's what most people hear about, the lion's den. All right, so that's one of the most memorable things about the book of Daniel. So we're gonna go over Nebuchadnezzar's dream, Daniel interpreting that. Daniel's a prophet. Daniel is one of those people in the Bible that is like very solid. All right, he showed a real good example of following God. All right, so we're gonna go over the book of Daniel, and we're gonna see why. All right, so I'm gonna give it about 20 more seconds, and then I'm gonna get started with chapter 1. All right, it's gonna start off with Daniel and his friends. All right, all right, and remember this is they're going into Babylon, so this takes place in Babylon. Babylon is very popular. People know what Babylon is. Today, Babylon is in ruins in modern day Iraq. All right. So Babylon was a powerhouse. All right. Um, but eventually, it gets conquered, I believe, by Alexander the Great, actually. So Greece, Alexander the Great conquers Babylon. All right. And then eventually, Alexander the Great passes away and his kingdom is divided. All right. So that's what and also, Babylon is mentioned in Revelation many times. God actually hated Babylon. All right, there's a lot of sexual sin in Babylon. All right, so here we go. We're going to start off right here. Daniel chapter 1. Daniel chapter 1. In the third year of the reign of Joachim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hands with some of the articles of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar to the house of his God, and he brought the articles into the treasure house of his God. So they're moving from Israel to Babylon. It's like, hey, we conquered Israel. Like, hey, we're gonna bring them over to Babylon, and one of those people is gonna be Daniel. All right. Then the king instructed Ashpenazar, the master of the eunuchs, to bring some of the children of Israel and some of the king's descendants and some of the nobles. So it's like, all right, let's bring some of the smart people from Israel. All right. Young men in whom there was no blemish, but good looking, gifted in all wisdom, possessing knowledge, quick to understand, who had the ability to serve in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the language and literature of the Chaldeans. So, like, hey, out of all the children of Israel, bring me the good looking ones, the smart ones, the who are worthy to serve the king. All right, so that's what's going on here. So Nebuchadnezzar, like, hey, bring me the highest value of people. All right, so that's what they're doing. And once again, one of those people is going to be Daniel and his friends. How's it going? All right, thank you for being on. All right, and the king appointed for them daily provision of the king's delicacies and of wine which he drank, and 3 years of training for them, so that at the end of that time they might serve before the king. So once again, it says, for they might serve before the king. So they're going to train Daniel and his friends to be like one of the Chaldeans, like, hey, you're not going to be one of us. All right, you're going to be one of us. So you got to go through the training. It says here, daily provision of the king's delicacies of the wine which he drank, and 3 years of training for them. So like, hey, you're gonna become one of us. So these are very godly people. All right, Daniel the prophet. All right, and it's like, hey, we're gonna turn Daniel into one of us. Now, from among those of the sons of Judah were Daniel. All right, so Daniel is part of Judah. All right, which is where Jesus is gonna come from, Judah. Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So those are their actual names: Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. All right, so those are Hebrew names. To them, the chief of the eunuchs gave names, who gave Daniel the name of Belteshazzar. So the first thing we're gonna do is, um, God bless you. Hey, God bless you. But hey, I'm not accepting donations. But hey, for real, God bless you. All right. Um, to them, that so the first thing they're gonna do is change their names. Like, hey, let's change their names. Like right off the bat, let's change their names. So here we go. Sons of Judah were Daniel, and to them the chief of eunuch gave them. He gave Daniel the name of Belteshazzar. It's like, your name is no longer Daniel. Your name is now Belteshazzar. To Hananiah, Shadrach, to Mishael, Meshach, and to Azariah, Abednego. So he just changed their names. Like, hey, you're gonna become one of us. Let's change your name. All right. So one thing to realize is, don't let people change your identity. All right. No matter where you're at. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's delicacies, nor with the wine, nor he drank. Therefore he requested of the chief of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Like, hey, he's trying to stick to himself. Like, hey, I'm a Hebrew. I follow God. My name is Daniel. All right. I mean, my his actual name is what was it? And I mentioned to them the chief eunuchs. Oh, his name is actual Daniel, not Belteshazzar. It's like, hey, my name is Daniel, not this new name, Belteshazzar. All right. Now God had brought Daniel into the favor and goodwill of the chief of the eunuchs. And the chief of the eunuchs said to Daniel, I fear my lord that the king who was appointed your food and drink, for why should he see your face looking worse than the young men who are your age? So they're gonna feed him pork. Like, one big thing is, you can't eat pork. All right. So in the Old Testament, you cannot eat pork. It's not until the book of Acts where, hey, that's, pork is cleansed. But as of right now, you can't eat pork. But these people, they eat pork, and they're like, hey, you got to eat what we eat. And Daniel is saying no to that. Like, hey, no, I'm not gonna eat. I'm not gonna break, the covenant. Like, hey, and he says, and they're saying, well, I don't want people in this palace to look weak. All right. For why should he see your faces looking worse than the young men who are your age? Then you would endanger my head before the king. Like, hey, you're gonna get me, you know, you're gonna put me in danger because you don't want to eat the protein that we're giving you, which was pork. So Daniel said to the steward, whom the chief of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, please test your servants for 10 days, and let them give us vegetables to eat and water to drink. So have you ever heard of the Daniel fast? So he's saying, test your servants for 10 days and let them give us vegetables to eat and water to drink. Daniel fast, vegetables and water. All right. Then let our appearance be examined before you. So Daniel says, you know what? Instead of all that protein, we're going to have vegetables and water. All right. He's sticking to his own traditions. All right. Appearance of young men who eat the portion of the king's delicacies, and as you see fit, so deal with your servants. So he consented with them in this matter and tested them 10 days. And at the end of 10 days, their features appeared better and fatter in flesh than all the young men who ate portions of the king's delicacies. So vegetables and water, and they were just as, strong as the people eating the king's delicacies. Thus the steward took away their portions of delicacies and wine that they were to drink and gave them vegetables. As for these four young men, God gave them knowledge and skill and all literature and wisdom. And at the end of 10 days, their features appeared better. All right. Thus the steward took away their portions of delicacies. Verse 17. As these four young men, God gave them knowledge and skill and all literature and wisdom. So they were given knowledge and wisdom from God. All right. And Daniel had understanding and all visions and dreams. So God gave them like gifts. Like, hey, you're gonna have visions and dreams. So once again, I'm gonna read this one more time. As for these four young men, God gave them knowledge and skill and all literature and wisdom. And Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. All right, that's huge. All right, that's huge. All right, so Daniel has a gift. God gives literally gives Daniel a gift here. Now, at the end of the days, when the king had said that they should be brought in, the chief of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. Then the king interviewed them, and among them all none was found like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore they served before the king. So they stood out. Daniel and his friends stood out amongst all the people that they try to, convert. And all the matters of wisdom and understanding about which the king examined them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians, astrologers who were in his realm. So the king has the prophets, which is Daniel and his friends. He has magicians, astrologers, all right, astrologers, which still exist today. People that think they talk astrology. Thus Daniel continued until the first year of King Cyrus. Right. So that's chapter one. All right, Daniel chapter one. Um, so what do we learn from Daniel chapter one? God gives them, God gives him and his friends a gift, knowledge, skill, and all literature and wisdom. All right, and Daniel had understanding and visions and dreams. So that's who Daniel was. Also, what we have to realize is that they try to change them to be one of the Chaldeans. They're like, hey, you're one of us. You're gonna eat what we eat. You're gonna be the way we are. And Daniel actually refused it. He's like, hey, but one of the huge things about this is how Daniel approached it. Daniel wasn't like violent or anything. He wasn't like, hey, I'm not gonna do what y'all. No, he says, hey, you know what? Just let's see what happens after 10 days. After you know, s- the rest of the people they eat what the king provides, and what how we come out when all we eat is vegetables and water. All right, so that's what happens here. And hey, Daniel gets favor. All right, something huge also to understand is Daniel. Let me see here. In all matters of wisdom, understanding, the king he he saw they stood out to the king. All right, that's one thing which is Nebuchadnezzar. Now at the end of the days, when the king had said that they should be brought in, the chief of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. Then the king interviewed them. King Nebuchadnezzar interviewed them, and among them all none was found like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah. Therefore they served before the king. They just stood out. All right, they stood out. All right, so we're gonna go to chapter two, Nebuchadnezzar's dream. This is huge. All right, this is huge. I'm thinking about actually starting another video. That's a 12-minute long video. So how's everybody doing? Thank you for being on. I have two people on. So all right, thank you very much. I'm gonna start another video, like literally like right after this. So tune in if you're interested. Trying to get a fresh audience. For chapter two, which is Nebuchadnezzar's dream. All right. So Daniel is going to interpret his dream. All right. That's what's going to happen here. All right. I'll stand by. I'm going to start a new video. Thank you very much. All right. God bless you.